Hi there, Year 3. It's time to do some English, and this week, as you know, we're going to go write a poem about the sun. Okay, but before we start doing English today, we have got a 10-minute starter activity to do. You have got one of these in your pack, so if you want to go and get the resource sheet from your pack, you're quite welcome to. So, synonyms, as you know, are words that have very similar meanings as each other. So we've got words like close and shut. So close the door, shut the door. It means the same thing, they're very similar. So I'm going to ask you to think of at least 3 different synonyms for the words below. You can use the thesaurus to help you. So we've got 3 words, we've got, 4 words: yellow, big, bright, and hot. So you need to try and find at least 3 different synonyms for each of those. So for example, for the word hot, you could use the word scorching or boiling. Big, it's quite easy, you could use words like huge or humongous. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to do that. So don't forget, put me on pause now, go away, do that activity, and then when you come back, we'll start today's lesson. Okay, off you go. Right, you're back now? Good. How'd you get on? Do you think it's some really good synonyms? Well done. You can always send them to your teachers. We're always pleased to see them. So today should be Wednesday, the 24th of February, and today we're going to write our poem. I know you've been looking at them in great detail, Mr. Bayford. So the first thing we need to do, and there's lots of things that we do need to do to help our memories before we get back to do some writing, is look, first of all, at our toolkit. So this is what we're doing. We're writing a poem to entertain. We know that the reader needs to understand it's a poem about the sun without being told, so we don't actually mention the word sun at all in our poem. So the reader's got to connect with the vocabulary and has got to create an image in their head. They've got to realise what time of day it is, because I think we're writing a poem about sunrise, not sunset, because the sun is going to be different at different times of the day. And the reader's got to understand your feelings towards the sun. So sometimes it might be that you like the sun, or sometimes you might think the sun's really hot and like scorching and quite a negative force. So to do that, we're going to have some short lines because we're writing a poem. We're not going to have a whole paragraph of ideas. We're going to have some short lines. We might have a one-word line. You might do, you might not. We're going to have stanzas. That means verses. So section of writing, which have our ideas are organised in it. So we're not going to just write down some random thoughts. We're going to think about what ideas we're going to put in which verse. We're going to have some rich vocabulary, very important. We're going to describe the sun. We might have some similes in there, noun phrases, and how the sun affects the landscape. Now this word, onomatopoeia, is words that sound like the words they're describing. So like whiz, bang. Okay, so we might have some of those in there to describe what the sun's doing. Personification. This is when you give the sun human characteristics. Okay, you describe it as a human. You don't compare it to something, which is what you do with simile. So the sun you give human characteristics to. So the sun might have fingers in your poem, or it might have eyes. Okay, it might be dancing. Obviously, the sun doesn't really dance, but that's your personification. You might have some time ones in there: born, birth, arrival, beginning. Obviously, if it's a different time of day, you might have some different ones like sunset. You might have some words like dying, disappearing, end. So that's what we've got to think of too. So that's the toolkit. Right, next we've got our word bank. This is very useful. It's got lots of amazing vocabulary in here, which is really, really useful to use. If you're not sure what a word means, get a dictionary out and use it, but it really helps you. Okay. Then we've got some similes here. Remember, that's when you compare it to something else. And then lots of different colours, lemon drops, scarlet, silver rings, lots of colours there to describe the sun, to create the image in your reader. Okay, now we're going to have a quick look at these poems again. So as you can see over here, we've got The Juggler of the Day by Emily Dickinson and then Solar by Philip Larkin, both very, very famous poets. Okay, so you look here, and I'm not actually going to read them, but I'm just looking at what they look like, if that makes sense. So again, she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 words on each line at the most, hasn't she? And then there's a space here for the stanza. And in this one here, really, it's kind of describes kind of what the sun is like. And then this one here is describing what the sun is doing. Okay, so this is like what's the sun's like, and then what's it's doing. And I said there are other ideas, but that's the main idea. And then Philip Larkins, I've had to kind of move his over here, but he's got 3 different verses here, hasn't he? And again, look, he's got 3 or 4 words in each line, no more. So we need to think about this, and we need to think about what the structure of our poem looks like. So you also notice that suspended line face spilling at the centre of an furnished sky. So that's all kind of like one idea, but he's spread it over 3 lines. He does have capital letters on at the beginning of each line, and if you look down here, He's got a few commas in places, and so has Emily Dickinson. In fact, I think she's got commas or some kind of punctuation oh no, it's not apart from that one, at the end of most of her lines. So we need to kind of remember that. Yeah, look, okay, it's a full stop there. So punctuation is not really at the end of every line, although Emily does have quite a lot. It's the end of each idea. So we need to kind of remember that when we write our poems. Final thing to look at, and probably the most important thing, is our plan from yesterday. Now, this is the plan that Mr. Bayford wrote with you or wrote for you in his lesson. And I've been through it with him as well, because if he writes a plan and then I have to come and write the poem, it's very difficult for me because some of these ideas might not be mine. And I know he's added to it as well by looking at his word banks, etc. So there's all those different things there. He's organised it into lots of different sections already, hasn't he? So I'm just going to show you. I have written the poem, but before we start that, let me show you what I had to do. So before I even started writing my poem, what I had to do was I had to get everything onto one page. So I had to get my word bank, I had to get the poems out so that I'd have some ideas, because I think the hardest thing of any writing is starting it off. Okay, so that's what I used when I was writing my poem. And also, I'd just like to say that before I got into this one, I've got loads of scrappy notes on a piece of paper here. So don't think that I just went ahead and wrote this like this, because I didn't. I have got all my ideas, and I had to think about it really, really carefully. So I didn't rush, but I did kind of like generate a few ideas to start with. So also, when I was thinking about organising my ideas, what I kind of thought was, all right, I'm going to have, a bit like Emily Dickinson, one idea about what the sun looks like and what it's doing, and then one about what it's doing to the landscape, if that makes sense. So this is more about describing the sun. This is more about what it's doing to the landscape. So I thought that was a good idea, because then I can organise my ideas. So again, I thought of a title. All poems have to have titles. So Emily's is Juggler of the Day, isn't it? And Philip Larkin's was Solar. So both those really good ones. So I've called mine Awakening. So already I put the readers' ideas in the reader's head that this is kind of awakening, this is getting up. Doesn't say anything to do with the sun though. So let's read to you. So peeping, creeping, tiny amber mouse. I kind of thought it was like dark, and I just wanted to kind of like put in the reader's head like a little example, just little gold bits of flecks of light coming out. And also I wanted to describe it as an animal as well, because I think, again, both of the poets have animals in theirs. Then fingers of milky gold spreading through the purple darkness. So fingers of milky gold here spreading through the purple darkness. This is like the sunlight kind of like spreading through the horizon. And again, the fingers, so there's a bit of personification there, and about it spreading. So I kind of, yeah, that's what I've done from that. So again, that's the sun. That's the sun just coming through and breaking through the night. Golden eye emerging from the blanket of night. Okay, so again, that's the sun just coming out of the blanket. So I've kind of like tried to link the night and the day so the reader knows what's going on. Reborn tangerine bloom. Now I looked at the word bank, and they've got a sentence there about blooming through the foothills, which I was going to use, but it just didn't quite fit, and I didn't like it, so I changed it. And I think it had glorious, and I didn't like the fact that I had golden and glorious. I thought they were too similar to have next to each other. This thing about reborn, I wanted to, include that idea that we discussed about Mr. Bayford, where it repeats that the sun comes up every day. So reborn was a word that I got from the word bank. So that means reborn, it's born again. Tangerine, again, a word from the word bank. Tangerine is like an orange. And then the bloom, again, is like a flower blooming. So flowers coming out. So those are all the ideas I put in there. And don't get me wrong, it did take me quite a while. So that's all describing the sun. And some of the ideas I had to change, because one of them I think I had down here, and I thought, well, it doesn't quite fit either. So this is about what the sun is doing to the landscape. So first of all, put stretching arms. That's a personification again, because obviously the sun doesn't have arms. Flicking, I kind of like that verb. I thought of that myself. I was quite proud. Flicking light into open doors. So a little bit kind of like Magpie there from Emily Dickinson, but what would it be doing? Patiently watching. Again, some more kind of personification. Gentle smile, murmuring. So that murmuring, so just kind of like not really loud, but quite quietly. And murmuring, omnopatipia. Sorry, I can't say it properly then. Breathing life. Okay, so as the sun comes out, things start to get up, that life, everything comes to life. And then this bit here, very proud of, a lone daffodil heralding spring. So that's why we use kind of Philip Larkin's idea, because he's got that one about one flower. And I thought, well, daffodils, it is nearly spring, heralding spring, I think is in one of the word banks. So I'm going to use that to close my poem, so like an ending. So there we go. You can see I have put quite a lot of thought into that, haven't I? I know, it took me quite a long time. It's going to take you quite a long time. The most important thing you can do is think about how you're going to organise ideas. You don't have to do it like I've done, but you can if you want to. So have like the first verse, first stanza describing the sun, and the second verse, the second stanza describing the effects of the sun on the landscape or people or whatever. I haven't in any of these verses mentioned the word sun. Have I? Just given that reader the imagery. And also, I kind of thought about how many words I was going to have in each line. I didn't think about, oh, I must write a sentence all the way over the page. I thought about what it's going to look like. Okay, I'm still not happy about this bit here. And tomorrow, when it comes to editing, I think I might change that, because to me it kind of sticks out a bit. I want to have it looking quite like a nice pattern. And I'm missing a couple of commas in there as well, but and full stops. But I'm going to sort those out tomorrow, because the most important thing is writing down my ideas. Okay, now good luck with your poems. All right. You know, don't worry if you don't get it right first try. Have a couple of goes. It's always good to read out your poem when you've done it as well. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back for the editing session. Until then, goodbye.